to the Action Drug Rehab Hour here on KHTS, our local hometown station. It's good to be here. I'm here with my co host, Robby Robinson. I hope you had a great weekend, sir.
Oh, yes, it was a really good weekend, just relaxing and doing what we need to do to stay healthy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Gosh, Saturday. It's been a rough few weeks for me. A
Oh,
lot of
yes.
people are losing their lives, and it's just been terrible. I went to a celebration of life of a friend of mine's daughter's husband, which is in his early 20s, and we don't really know the cause of death yet.
Right.
But it was so sad. When anyone dies, it's sad, but especially when it's a youngster. And there must have been over 600 people at this thing, and it was terribly sad. So my condolences go out to the families. I'm not going to mention names. And as I'm there, another friend of mine walked up to me and gave me a hug, and he says, "Remember my brother?" I went, "Oh yeah." And he says, "3 days ago they found him dead, overdosed." So it's kind of everywhere I go right now. And then on Facebook, I have two or three other people that actually overdosed in the last 3 weeks, and quite a few that overdosed and lived. And then Robby, I mean, what's going on out there?
Well, it's the pressures of life. People feeling that they can't cope, whether you're a professional or just a layman. Um, the way things are, people are stressed.
Mm.
People are not taking care of themselves, and
The drugs are crazy.
and with the drugs that are out there now, I mean, people are just not, just staying focused on the real important things, and that is living. I mean, there are other things that are out there, and
But
once
you,
a person gets involved in
but you
drugs,
know what? They stopped talking about fentanyl really.
yes,
I mean, you see it every once in a while, but it's almost like it's over there, and we forgot to really talk about it. And more people are still using it, and more people are still dying, and we're not really doing much talking about it. I did an interview the other day on with one of the news channels, Channel 7, on alcohol. I mean, even not. I mean, fentanyl's not even coming up anymore, and I'm doing a live interview with him in a couple of weeks on staying sober during the weekends. So we better start. We better start. I mean, I don't want to go out there and tell the world that fentanyl's killing everyone because we already know that. But these people that are buying fentanyl aren't buying fentanyl. They're buying all kinds of other pills, and we stop talking about it. So we gotta start talking about it because I see all these people freaking dying, and it's just so sad.
well, they think it's a lot of people. It's not going to happen to me. That's the main thing. It's not going to happen to me. I'm
Or
smart.
they weigh it out and they say, You know what, it's worth the risk because they're so addicted they don't want to go through the
That's
withdrawals."
true. That's true. And so, it's like what's going on in society now. What are you going to do to me? So in their mind, this isn't going to hurt me. I'm smarter than the drug. I'm smarter than the outcome. So what happens is when people start feeling that way, you can't really tell them nothing. Sometimes I come and speak to the group, that a very good group that you have, and I offer help to them in regards to fitness and stuff. Nobody shows up
Yeah.
because in their mind, it's like, I can handle this,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't handle it. We are not made to go through life alone. Even Christ, God said it,
Right.
we're not meant to be alone with each other. But a lot of people, once you get the drugs and the psychosis, I can handle this. I can stop, and they can't stop.
Mm-mm.
And there you are. You see them over and over and over again. And then it's going to take them to lose their life for them to really stop. And we pray that that does not happen.
You
Our
know,
goal is to help these people.
I was saying this the other day. We caught somebody smoking some weed in one of our facilities, and which makes perfect sense because nobody goes to rehab to get clean and sober.
Mm-mm.
They go to rehab to stop the behavior of what is taking them down or what their family is doing in intervention. Meaning this, if their drug of choice is opiates, they cannot understand why they can't smoke weed.
That's right.
If their drug of choice is weed, they can't understand why they can't drink alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't understand is what you call an addictive personality.
There you go.
That nobody wakes up in the morning and decides they're going to be a drug addict. In fact, I think just about everybody growing up has contracts, meaning when I grow up, these are things I'll never do. And it's always something like I'm not going to smoke cigarettes, I'm not going to vape. I mean, everybody knows somebody who lost their life to cancer. Everybody knows. And we're going to go for that in a second, but everybody knows that smoking causes cancer. It says it on the box.
Sure does.
I'll tell you a sad story. Here's what it's. Okay, let me go first. I lost my mother about 10 years ago to cancer. She kept going to the freaking doctor, and they kept misdiagnosing her, missing it. And when they finally realized it, it was too late. And I'll never forget, we were sitting in the doctor's office, and she looked at the doctor, and she said to the doctor, "How did this happen?" You know what he said? He said, he looked at her, and he looked at me, and he looked back at her, and he says, "Esther, that was her name." He says, "It says it on the box."
That's right.
I mean, I think he took the air out of us. And, you know, and my wife, Jessica, she found a pack of cigarettes in my drawer today, which I keep. And what it says is from Mexico. And it's big writing on the thing. It says, "Smoking kills," period. That's all it says from
That's right.
Mexico. And then on most packs out here, it says things like this, Robby. It says, smoking contains, or you say smoking contains carbon monoxide. That's the crap that comes out of your muffler. It's poison.
Yes,
Or
it
it
is.
says something like this: the Surgeon General. Let's ask our board rep or board op. Who's the Surgeon General?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I
Top-
should know
top
that.
doctor in the world.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So let's look at this for a second. The Surgeon General, the top doctor in the world.
Right.
Then it says this. It doesn't used to say this. It says has determined. What does that mean? Has determined. Fact that smoking causes lung cancer, emphysema, and it says some others complicated health. Who in the world would pick up a cigarette that in the box it's telling you smoking kills, smoking contains carbon monoxide? The Surgeon General has determined that smoking causes lung cancer. There's only two reasons for a kid to pick up a cigarette or a vape. Number one is, you know what it is. Them dudes over there, look how cool it is. They're at school. They're hanging out. They look all glamorous and exciting. There's girls hanging out. They have cigarettes dangling from their mouth. They look tough and cool, and it's attractive to some kids.
That's right.
So they go over there and they hang out, and somebody says, "Hey, Robby, want a cigarette?" And you're going to yourself, "Oh no, I'm not going to smoke. I don't want to get cancer." But you're there every freaking day.
That's right.
And what's going on in your brain? You're getting desensitized. No one's getting sick. They're young. And one day you go, "What the heck? I'll take a hit." You take your first hit off a cigarette, right? What'd you just do?
Get addicted.
Broke
Broke your
contract
contract.
you made when you were
That's right.
just in kindergarten. They're teaching you this stuff.
Constant association bred simulation.
Exactly. So how do you clean this up? You just took a hit off a cigarette or a vape. It's only a cigarette or a vape. I'll never use weed. But why not? It's natural. God put it there. It's legal now. It's used for medical purposes. So what's going on now? You're getting desensitized again. Everybody's starting to have edibles or vaping new stuff or whatever it is they're doing. And you go to yourself, "I guess it ain't that bad."
Yeah.
And you take your first hit. What'd you do now? Contracts are getting weak. How do you clean that up? But you did more than break a contract now, didn't you?
That's right.
You just joined something, didn't you?
That's right.
It just became part of these guys for real. You know, and you'd smoke something that made you feel good. If somebody tells you drugs make you feel bad, they're lying to you. It makes you feel so good, you chase it forever. So how do you clean that up? It's only pot on never.
Well, and I'm assuming, it would be obviously much deeper than just that surface of it feels good. Obviously, like people who are searching for that and chasing that drug or chasing the alcohol obviously have other things that are not being taken care of. We talk about mental health.
course,
Obviously,
right.
that's a
course.
big topic now. So you have to
Right.
back the train up even
Yeah,
more so,
that's
you
right.
know?
Of course.
That's
And
right.
we're gonna hit mental health today too. So I'm glad you brought that up. But yes, I mean it numbs you.
Mhm.
All these feelings of sadness or insecurities that you were growing up with, as soon as you started smoking weed, they went away.
Right.
So you go to a party. Let's say you go to a party here in Santa Clarita, a teenage party. You think it's only pot in those rooms? I don't think so. So I mean, you could ask the kids. I work with kids. They say the same thing. At every party, there's everything's there now. So you go to a party, you start smoking a little bit of weed, you drink a little bit of alcohol, and then the pipe comes through. Bye. What's in the pipe? Oh, it's meth, dude. You got to try this. Oh, no. You smoke a little bit more weed. You drink a little more alcohol. What happens to your mind now? You're starting to get what? A little bit loose.
Yeah. Your inhibitions are
Yep.
decimated at that point.
So you
Yes.
say, what the
Yeah.
heck? And you take your first hit. Now, if it's meth or an opiate, what do you think how many times do you think you need to get high on that drug if you have an addictive personality to be emotionally addicted?
My brother had an addictive personality and he lost his life. He's younger than I. He told me on his hospital bed, it all started from vaping.
Mm-hmm.
All started from vaping. From that, he started smoking, as we know, the progression.
So the contracts, he started
And
breaking them.
he used to get upset at me when I would talk to him. Come on, man, didn't want to hear it. His words before he went into hospice, tears in his eyes, I wish I had listened to you.
Yeah.
Because he started vaping, then he got into marijuana, then he got into PCP, then he got into cocaine, and then it just continued on. And so when I would see him sometimes, he was just like, not there. I have another brother from the rages of alcohol. I can't even have a conversation with him.
One of the worst drugs ever, I mean, alcohol, because it would, some of these drugs we know, fentanyl, you use too much, you die. Crystal meth, you go crazy. You end up in psych wards, you rot your bones, your teeth start going. I mean, you could see the damage. Alcohol kills you slowly from the inside out, and you
That's
can't
right.
see it. It's invisible. And then all of a sudden, one day, you go through these DTs, you go to a doctor, and you're in big trouble.
There you
Yeah.
are.
So alcohol is also one of the only, there's others, but one of the only drugs that if you're physically addicted to it and you don't get medical attention, you will die coming off of it.
Yes, that's true.
Over 30%. So it's a very dangerous drug. But let's go back to the party for a second. These kids go to a party, they start drinking, smoking a little weed, the pipe comes by, they take a hit. If you have an addictive personality, that hit is a shortcut to the pleasure zone of your brain.
Yes.
So it makes you feel different and better than anything you have ever done in your life. And how do you tell somebody 14 or 48 that something that makes them feel so good is so bad? It's instant addiction. Instant. And that's what people chase. They chase that first high. And then all of a sudden you build a tolerance. So you need more of that first high. And then you need more of it. And before you know it, your brain needs more than your body can take.
Well, and I think what's scary when I think about this type of thing with the addictive personalities you guys were just talking about, maybe you don't know that you have an addictive personality. I'm certain that some people do, of course, but what if you don't know that you do and you're a 14-year-old kid? You don't know anything. You're trying to make it through history class and somebody hands you a vape and you happen to have an addictive personality. And now what?
Yeah,
now you're stuck.
Now you're in trouble.
Here's the other small thing too. Sometimes when I'm talking to kids, they tell me my mother and father smoke marijuana.
Yeah.
That's what they tell me.
Makes it even harder.
So it's even harder for me to reason with them. And the way things are now, years ago, you would go to jail and then you would get treatment. And now they don't even put you in jail.
Yeah,
It's
I
it's
spoke
a
to
joke.
the courts today. You know
Where?
what they said?
Juvenile hall?
No, I spoke to the courts in Santa Clarita. So you got a crew that works in the courts here, and their job is kind of your job.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody's in jail, they're to go and do intervention, see what's going on. If they want help, to offer it to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even getting referrals.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting in their office waiting because the courts are not pursuing any of these drugs charges. They're just letting them go. So nobody's forced into any treatment right now. So it's changed the whole dynamics of everything. And then you just talked about adolescence and 14 years old and THC, and then you talked about the parents are using drugs.
Oh yeah.
Do you know that What age is it? We all know the answer to this, but what age is it that an adolescent brain starts developing completely? I don't know if ever completely, but it's like in the 20s.
Yeah. Well, yeah, isn't it? Well, it's 21,
No,
right?
for women, not for men. We take a little longer, but I swear I never said that. So, but what
But it's
happens?
true.
So their brains aren't even developed yet, and they're smoking or eating or vaping this high caliber, high potent THC. Now, when they legalize pot, here's what they didn't take into consideration. They believed they were legalizing marijuana, right? How
Mhm.
do you use marijuana? You smoke it. How do you use THC? You smoke it, you eat it, you vape it. So this is a different drug. It's not even a plant that they're doing anymore. They got it done where they get the oils out of the thing. It used to be zero point 0.3 milligrams of THC in a joint, then it went now it's around 25 to 30 milligrams. These edibles and vapes, 100% THC.
And these kids are hallucinating. You see them. Years ago when I was growing up, people marijuana, you see them in a stupor. These kids are hyped up
Oh, they're
when they're
gone.
vaping and hyped up, and I look at them and then I'm trying to talk to them, and you can't tell them nothing.
No.
It took
Anger.
anger, yes. It took me and a very good deputy for Santa Cruz Sheriff's. We worked together, and we were out in Castaic. This kid had, as you said, Jen, mental health issues coupled with the use of drugs. Deputy Rooney, a really good deputy, and he and I worked together. And finally, they detained this kid. He was acting out. It took them, juvenile court, at least 3 to 4 times before they decided they have to put him in a detention area, treatment center, locked down. And every time the kid was caught, the kid was either under the influence of PCP, under the
Pot.
influence of meth,
Mm-hmm.
or he was under the influence of fentanyl. And they still put him in an open placement. Finally, after they finally put him in a place, but it took him 4 times. And I was talking to them saying, this kid really needs help. We're not talking about locking him up. We're talking about getting him help.
Of course.
Yeah, there's a
And
difference.
they wanted to put him in an open placement. And I said, he will run away. 3 times he ran away. 3 times. And all I had to do was kind of listen to me and say, okay, we'll put him where he needs help. But the
Well,
system.
it's not like you know any of this. I mean, you weren't a probation officer for 30 something.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, no, I was.
You worked in the
I
juvenile
worked
halls.
in
I mean,
I
come
worked
on.
in juvenile hall and camp, and I worked in the streets. So I knew what was going on. And my thing at that time was, this is not about locking him up. This is about getting him treatment.
Yeah. You know, I put more people, not just kids, more people in psychiatric facilities and rehabs for THC in the last year than I have in the last 40 years dealing with people smoking pot.
Wow.
More people in psych because of the high potency of stuff right now. You know that I don't remember the numbers, so I'm not going to say the statistics, but more senior citizens
Yes.
have been hitting the ER visits than
Yes.
ever before. I think it was up like
Depression.
2,000% or some insane number for THC.
Yes.
Yeah, doctors are suggesting they smoke it or whatever it is that they do. So we got more of those visits. We got more adolescent visits to the ER than we've ever had before. We got more visits to the ER from people, period, from THC than we ever had before. I'm not saying pot, THC.
Mm-hmm.
And from psychosis to medical issues. So it's just something we want to pay attention to, especially parents. Listen to this. Your kid's brain aren't developed yet. Pot THC has a 7-day half-life. It stores in your system. We've had people that haven't smoked in months and still have tests dirty. So it's you really got to pay attention. It used to be a rite of passage. Let me tell you something about rite of passage. In the old days, people would say my kid's experimenting with drugs, right? My kid recreationally uses. I don't never knew what that means. I mean, I guess they played hockey and shot heroin. I don't know what recreational usage means. But how about experimenting with drugs? Those are the kids we're losing today. I'm going to take a break after I say this. They say now that the drug addiction is killing more people than any other thing there is from 18 to 45. Number one cause of death, right? That's a bunch of crap. How about 16 to 45?
Yes.
That's more like it. You cannot experiment with drugs today for two reasons. Number one, none of them are real. If you're buying drugs on the street, they're fake, which means they're chances are they're fentanyl, and it's Russian roulette at best every time, right?
That's true.
And number two, I want you to all think about this until we come back. Tell me one drug. You can call in if you'd like. Tell me one drug that's not physically addictive today. One drug that's not physically addictive. On that note, this is the Action Drug Rehab Hour. I'm Cary Quashen, along with Robby Robinson, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Action Drug Rehab Hour. I'm Cary Quashen, along with my co-host Robby Robinson.
Hello.
And hey, and we've been speaking a little bit about, the fentanyl crisis that's going on right now, the THC crisis
That's right.
that's been going on right now, the progress of when we not progress, whatever word I want to say, is how we start using drugs without even thinking it, by vaping or smoking a cigarette, and how it progresses. That's the word I'm looking for, into other stuff as we break our contracts. Um, we were talking during break. I love our breaks because we're talking to you, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
And what were you saying? You talk to your kids a lot about.
I have a 14-year-old boy and an 11-year-old girl, and I talk to them often and outwardly. I mean, it's hard as a parent because nobody wants to talk about awkward things, right? Obviously, there's a list of awkwardness that you can discuss with your kids, but you can't. It's so important I want my kids to know that they can ask me questions and not have to Google something or ask their friends, right? So I talk to them all the time, especially my daughter. She's a little more adventurous and doesn't have a lot of fear, which is a great quality, but I want to make sure I kind of, hone that thing and just talk to her about there's drugs out there that look like candy. I show her pictures
That's right.
and it's not a fun conversation, but you have
cookies
to.
and brownies
Right,
and gummies and all kind. That there's a whole boatload of kids going into the ER because they're eating cookies and gummies. Parents or brothers and sisters leave it around, and young kids are getting into it.
Right.
That's right.
So it's a conversation. Hey guys, if you're adult enough to have a child, you better be adult enough to be a parent.
That's right.
And that means tackling the hard situations like drug abuse, like dating and dating violence, like sex, all those kinds of things. Do you want your kids to learn it from the streets or from you?
Right.
And somebody,
What's worse? Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, always, 40 years I've been asked this 1,000 times. When do we start talking to our kids about that kind of stuff? Drugs, sex, rock and roll, dating. As soon as they're old enough to talk. I don't care if they're 2 or 3, because we have to hardwire our kids to not want to do those kinds of things. Right now, the peer pressure is worse than it's ever been in history. True?
True.
With social media, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or whatever it is. A 14-year-old kid, a 12-year-old kid that has a phone, what do you think their last thing they do is before they go to sleep? Very last thing. Pick up their phone and say goodnight to their friends in person, face right there looking at them. Then they go to sleep. The first thing in the morning, before they go to the restroom or on the way to the restroom, what do you think they're doing?
Talking to their friends.
Talking to their friends. Oh, they see them right there. How do you like that? Then they come into the kitchen or whatever, if mom and dad are there, if they're even living together. How does the conversation go? Oh, hey, they talk for a few minutes, then they go to school. Who are they with at school? Friends. So they go to sleep with their friends, right? They wake up to their friends, and then they go to school with their friends for 6 or 8 hours. Then they come home. Who's waiting for them? And who's waiting for them? Most of the time I ask that in groups, parents say nobody. That's a bunch of crud. Everybody. Either in person like this or in person like this.
That's right.
So they go to sleep with them. They wake up with them. They go to school with them. They come home to them. And then the parents come home, or one parent comes home. And then here's how the conversation goes in most homes. Sorry, but this is reality. How was your day? It was good. How was school? It was okay. You have any homework? I already done it. Are you hungry? I ate. Then they go right back to their bedrooms. And what are they doing now?
Getting on their phone. And then if you go out to an event, you go to a nice restaurant and the kids are sitting there, everybody's on their phone and nobody's talking.
So I'll tell you, I want to hit that in a second, but check this out. So they're spending 16 plus hours with their friends, right?
That's right.
The average parent of a teenager, this is scary and horrible, spends 2 to 10 minutes talking to their kid.
It's true.
So now all this peer pressure, and they're connected to their friends, not their family, right? Who do you think they want to please more, their parents or their friends?
Their friends.
Bingo. So why do you think they're making more mistakes today than ever before? Because they want to please who?
Their friends. And
The guilt's not there anymore.
That's right.
And there is no consequences.
The consequences of the street is death. The consequences of parenting, things can be taken away and given back. But the consequences of the streets are death.
Today,
whether
yes.
you're involved in gangs, drugs, or criminal activity. The consequences are more severe than they are when you have them with your parents, because your parents they love you no matter what. The streets, they don't care.
2 to 10 minutes, Robby.
That's right.
The average parent spends 2 to 10 minutes. The kids are spending 16 plus hours with their friends. How do we attack that? The single most addictive thing in this whole world, this country, is what? Cell phones, social media.
Yeah.
Period.
I don't have it.
I have
Facebook.
I said the kids do it, right?
Yeah.
So do the parents.
When
you're in a restaurant, what are they doing? Taking pictures of their food and posting it. Moms, dads are in space, and the kids are texting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was at Olive Gardens the other day. You know what they have on the table?
Games.
No, yes. You know why they have games?
So to keep the kids interested.
So you don't have to talk to them. Why else would a parent if you're sitting at a table with your young kid, why would you want them on a game instead of talking to them?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this whole electronic world, or whatever you want to call it, it's not doing us real good.
I had an uncle who was very hardcore. He would be called what you would consider today a Christian fundamentalist. He was very hardcore, and he would talk to me. And he said, "You see that house over there?" I said, "Yes, sir. That is a house of ill repute. I don't want you over there." And he would use his hands. And he would say, "You need deliverance. You need to be in church." And, I was young. I was a teenager, and I would laugh. But now I see what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
He would say to me, "You don't need to be out there. You see that guy walking the streets? That guy got cut. Look at how he's limping right now. See, he's out here gambling." And so it was funny, but it was true.
Of course.
It was very true. So I had someone talking to me. See, he took the time. Even in karate and boxing, I had someone talking to me, and I took it in. And so that's where I gravitated. Even when I offer free boxing and stuff to kids. Some kids don't come, but I still do it because I have maybe 2 or 3 that come regularly. And I try to talk with them. Not only am I teaching them how to fight, but I'm teaching them about life, not cursing, not smoking, not drinking, staying in school.
And if you're in his boxing class and you wear makeup, God help you.
I have a kid that
he got so pissed off.
I had a kid that came in with eyeliner on, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, this is not a place to wear eyeliner in the boxing gym.
Somebody might knock it off your eyes.
Somewhere else you can wear it, but not in boxing.
He's funny, man.
I almost had a conniption, and I was like, but anyway.
You know what? Tell me what category you're in. There's 3 categories when it comes to children, okay? Category number 1, no matter what kind of a parent you are, your kid is just knows what they want to do in life, and they're going to get there, and they're going to be probably lonely and stuff like that because they're going to walk away from trouble when it's there.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the categories. The next categories are your high maintenance, high risk kids. No matter what you do as a parent, they're going to use drugs, drive fast, ditch school, fight, that kind of stuff, right? That's actually the smallest. The next category is the largest. That's your fence sitters, meaning they do what the crowd does. They do what the herd does. So used to be dad would go to work, mom would be waiting with milk and cookies. So the kids, or before social media, you spent quality family time. Now you don't. So these fence sitters now want to please their friends more than they do family because they don't feel that guilt.
Some of your friends will get you in trouble.
That's where we're losing them. But you were one of those kids that knew what they wanted to do.
Oh, yeah. I was very young. And long story short, not going long, I always wanted to be in the motion picture industry. I saw it. I wanted to be a fighter. That's what I wanted. And from that, And with the proper guidance and mentorship, I became a decent karate fighter, and I parlayed my skills, and then now I'm working in the stunt business.
That's right.
But I saw that back in '65.
Yeah. So
I
you
wanted
knew.
that,
You
and I
knew.
knew that I didn't have anybody. I didn't have anybody in quote Hollywood, but I knew that if I stuck to this and got good grades and did what was right, I could make it. So when I came out here, I was prepared.
Yeah.
And these kids aren't prepared because they're missing school. A lot of these kids,
Those are the fences.
they'll as time goes on, they'll
Mhm.
start to realize, you know what, I need to change. But then sometimes you don't have the skills now.
Yeah.
When you were in school, you know, when you had the chance to go to college, you didn't go. You didn't want to sit in class. You didn't want to listen to the teacher. And let's get real. A lot of us, I sat in class. Some of the classes, at least I got a C out of it. I got a C or B out of it. But the bottom line, these kids now, because they're using drugs, hanging out, can do whatever they want, they're missing out on life. And then when they decide, oh, I want to go into service, well, you can't go into service. You've been arrested for drugs and this and that. So the goal of as adults is to work with these kids to get them on the right track.
I want to challenge all parents that are listening today. You know what the challenge is? A flat out challenge to you. Be the person that you want your child to grow up and be. Do the things that you want your kids to grow up and do. That do what I say, not what I do, doesn't work.
Don't be
So
their friend.
be
Be their parent.
be the person, be the hero, be the individual that you want your kid to grow up and be. Period. I want to change um, the whole show right now. I want to go somewhere else.
Sure.
What's going on? I mean, let's talk about mental health right now and stuff like that. And also, I want to give my condolences to the sheriff deputies.
Yes.
And the
their
families of the sheriff
Yes.
deputies that committed suicide this last week and attempted it.
Yes.
It's terrible, Robby.
I don't know. I can't comment, but I do think whatever, as Jen said, there may be other things going on, and people become overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And once you become overwhelmed, you see no other way out. Sometimes they feel that if I talk about what's going on with me, I look weak. Well, no. Weakness, you're not weak because you're talking about a problem that you have. Everybody needs to talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a little sick and you came to see me, I was able to talk to you. That kept me going.
Congratulations, by the way.
Oh yeah, well, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, just fought that battle, but
And won.
yeah, really, thank God. But a lot of people who are in leadership position, they are leaders, but they don't have anyone to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
They can really understand what they're really going to. The mounting pressures every day, not only what's going on your job, but maybe there's pressures in your home. Maybe there's pressures with your kids. There are other issues, and you need financial.
things.
So you need to talk with someone.
It's okay to reach out, is what you're saying.
There's nothing wrong with reaching
And
out.
it makes you strong, not weak.
Yes, it does.
And people do care.
Yeah.
And there are people out there that want to help.
Yes.
That have been through that or know how to get you through that. I ran psych hospitals and rehabs for almost all my grown-up life, as you know.
Right.
And I'm going to say a couple of things. Number one, there's nothing worth dying for.
That's true.
Everything can get better unless you get a diagnosis of tomorrow. Everything can. You still have reasons to live.
Yes.
And as far as I remember I ran Henry Mayo's behavioral health unit for 16 years.
Right.
And you can't get in there unless you have want to die, want to kill somebody, or just can't take care of yourself, meaning fend for yourself in any matter, shape, or form. Almost everyone that came in there did a suicide attempt, right?
Right.
And almost everyone I've ever met said, thank God it didn't happen. I'll never forget, I was talking to this kid. He called me up one day and just two quick stories. And he said to me, I just took some pills and I don't want to die. We got mom on the phone. We got 911 there. And he kept saying the same thing. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Well, he died in the ambulance. 16 years old. I'll never forget that conversation. If you flirt with suicide, it's going to bite you.
It's nothing to play with.
No.
It is nothing to play with. And a lot of people and a lot of kids and people will say it to get attention. But even by saying that, there are other issues that are going on that need to be addressed. And so our goal is to address issues so that you don't get to that point.
But if somebody does threaten suicide,
You have to take that serious.
absolutely, even if you believe
believe
it's not true. Because what if they push it and test you?
That's true.
And I've seen that happen so many times where the parents told me in my 40 plus years of dealing with situations, I could tell you stories, I won't, but I've seen kids maybe use that as a manipulation.
Yes.
They didn't get the response they wanted, and then they were buried.
Yes.
So you have to take it serious. I mean, you call up here, call the sheriff, man, and they'll come. They'll evaluate
There's the Met
kid.
team.
There's a Met team.
Yep.
If they can't get to the Met team, they'll bring them over to Henry Mayo.
Yes.
24 hours, 365 days a year. They will do a psych eval. They will make sure it's safe. It's always better safe than sorry. Can you imagine if your kid said, "I'm going to kill myself," and you said, "No, you're not," and you left the room, and in the morning they were dead? So you always take it serious. On that note, Robby, guess what time it is? We got to take a break.
We're going to take a break.
This is KHTS. This is the Action Drug Rehab Hour. We shall be right back. Welcome back to the Action Drug Rehab Hour here on KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen. I'm your host, along with my co-host, Robby Robinson. Robby Robinson is one of our local heroes, just if you didn't know that he works for the Sheriff's Department as a citizen.
Yes.
What's the word?
I work as an intervention specialist, civilian investigator.
That's the word.
And I'm not a legend in my own mind.
Yes, you are.
No.
Yes, you are. You told me you were.
No.
You said, you know what? I might not be a legend out in the world, but I am in my own mind. You did tell me that.
Well, you might have been asleep that.
I'm just playing.
But I wanted to touch on a thing that I see with a lot of the kids, and when I'm trying to divert them from using drugs, is they are telling me that they see their parents drinking and they see their parents using drugs. And well, yeah, my mom and dad, I see them always smoking marijuana. They're out on the patio and I see them doing it. So, I can do it. I said, but where do you want to see yourself in a few years? I say, this is one of them. Some of the kids tell me, well, my mom and dad, they're going from job to job. And, some of them have lost some of their jobs. I said, is that what you want? I said, listen, maybe by you not using may change their life. Maybe if they see that you're sober and that you're not using, maybe it will hit something in their head like, you know what, maybe I really need to stop so that we can be a family. You might be the catalyst to have your mom and your dad stop smoking. You could be.
You know what the last thing my father told me was? I said it 100 times on the radio and other places, is about an hour and a half before he died. He says, "I'm sorry I never been there. I'm sorry I never got clean, and I wish I would have went to meetings with you." That's what he said, and he died at 47 years old.
Wow.
From cancer, from drugs and cigarettes and all that crazy stuff. But that was the last thing he says. So back to what I said earlier, you guys need to be the person you want your children to grow up and be. You need to do the things and role model the things you want your kids to grow up and do.
That's right.
If you don't want them to do it, look in the mirror. Take a hard, long look at yourself. And yeah, so, I mean, there's things I know you want to do, and it's not the right thing.
That's
to do.
right.
Whenever I do groups, and you've done groups like that with me, we go to the younger schools, right?
That's right.
The middle schools and the elementary schools, and we tone our speech down. We don't talk about serious, crazy drugs and all that gang stuff. We talk about peer pressure. And people are going to offer you cigarettes, and people are going to want you to ditch class and these kinds of things. At the end of every group I've ever done in 40 freaking years for young kids, at the end of every single group, there's kids crying. And I always know what it is. I say, "What's wrong with you, honey?" And they go, "Is my mom going to die?"
There you go.
She smokes cigarettes, and I'm afraid she's gonna. And they're crying. Is my dad gonna die? Why? Because he drinks too many beers. And these are 7, 8, 10-year-old kids. So you got to know that if you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing, your children are in bed crying, scared.
That's right.
And if you want to know what scares teenagers, this is to the parents now. It's growing up, especially kids that are using drugs and having problems in school. What am I going to do when I grow up? How am I going to buy a house? How am I going to support a family? So what do? They get high to forget about it because they don't know what else to do.
That's right.
So it's a whole kind of cluster. You know what?
Yeah.
I can't say it on the radio, but I can say be the person you want your kid to grow up and be. I'm going to say it again. Be the person you want your kids to grow up and be. What did I say, Robby?
There you go. Be the person you want your kids to grow up to
And
be.
do what? Do the things you want your kids to grow up and do. Be that role model.
In karate, we had a thing where I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't curse, I don't gamble, and I don't carouse. That was our motto. That was our motto in karate.
Yeah.
There's no need to be weak mentally or physically. We'll have self-respect, confidence, and understanding. That was taught to me when I was a very young boy. We said it every day. And my instructor said, one day it'll make sense to you.
And it hardwires in you.
And it sure did. And we don't surrender. And we were talking in regards to fighting. We don't surrender. We either win or we die to our old selves and move forward. And that's and these precepts are not taught anymore to the kids.
Well, people spend 2
There's
to 10
no prayer
minutes
in
with
school.
their kids, you know?
There's no prayer in school. There's no respect for God. There's a difference with trying to be religious. I'm talking about respecting God.
There's no respect for adults.
There's no respect for God. There's no respect for adults.
Authority.
There's no respect, as you said, for authority. There's no respect for the American flag anymore. So what happens is people are like, I do what I want to do. It doesn't work like that.
Do you know that if somebody goes into Nordstrom's and carries out a bunch of clothes, you're not even allowed to touch them? They could just do it. And you could just smile and wave because you can't touch them. I mean, I'm not even going to go there, but I do know this. People change when they have to. When the consequences of what they're doing outweighs the payoff. There is no consequences today. So my plea is to parents again. Be the person you want your kids to grow up and be. Do the things you want your kids to grow up and do. Also, we got 2 more minutes again, and I want to say, if you're suffering from mental health, if you're depressed, if these holidays are bringing even more of it out and you're feeling suicidal, please
talk with someone.
Talk to somebody. Please talk to somebody. Talk to your priest or your rabbi or your whoever. Remember that Henry Mayo has a 24-hour, 365-day-a-year mental health evaluation team at the hospital. There's always something to do, and remember this: there is nothing worth dying for. There's always an out. What else can I say, Robby?
You've said it best. And with the holidays coming up, spend time with your families. Don't wait for the holidays to spend time with your family. Spend time with your family. Talk to your kids. Let them know that, I make mistakes too, but we're in this together. I love you. But I don't want to see you go down the wrong road. Don't be their friend. Be their parent. Don't be their friend. Be their parent.
And remember this: there's nothing worth dying for. Well, that's not real true. I would definitely die for my children, my family, my wife.
That's right.
Kind of stuff. Those people I would die for. Otherwise, there is nothing worth dying for, and there's always hope out there. On that note, we'll be back next week. This is the Action Drug Rehab Hour. I'm Cary Quashen. This is Robby Robinson. Have a safe and great week.
Take care.